MAIDN MHAITH, Barna MAIDN duet, Dramary Agas Colonia, Inia la Fale Pastrag no la Nasilento na Iron. La Ciudad na Dama no Stuma Ster, Arantalam Aradulik Iron, no Polok na Iron, O Agas Neo Tuishtar Iron on. Or, good morning, top of the morning to you laddies and lasses. Today is St. Patrick's Day, or Irish National Day. To celebrate, here is my history of the land known as Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland. Oh, and Northern Ireland doesn't exist. Let's begin, shall we? Ireland remained uninhabited by humans for a really long time. By long, I mean about 4.5 billion years long. However, humans first traveled to Ireland 12,000 years ago in 10,000 BCE, roughly, to find its only resident, the viviparous lizard, which gives birth to babies at 2 years old, so there's that. In the 1970s in Londonderry County, which I'll still count for the Republic, even though it's in Northern Ireland, a discovery was made, now known as the Mount Sandal site. It was dated to 7,000 BCE, or 9,000 years ago. At this site, you could have expected to find what you would call hunter-gatherers. Mount Sandal was in fact used as a prehistoric fort to defend against other hunter-gatherers, probably. However, it was abandoned. Gasp. 2,000 years later, in 5000 BCE, a new group arrived in Ireland. You may know them as the Celts, not the Celts. Get it together, Boston. 6,000 years ago, in roughly 4000 BCE, a new period began, the Neolithic period. Roughly corresponding to this new era, the hunter-gatherers of Ireland began innovating. Starting at this time, these people began farming whatever wouldn't die in the beautiful Irish climate. Using stone tools and building tombs. So many tombs. The most famous of which being Newgrange, which was built in 3200 BCE, or 5,200 years ago, and is now crazy expensive to go to. Starting 2,600 years ago, roughly in 260 BCE, was a new period, the Iron Age. During this time, Ireland would drastically change. Its Celtic inhabitants, who began speaking many different languages, which are all good at making you have strokes, would establish Ireland's first kingdoms, which would later merge into the well-known regions of, are you ready everyone? Let's go through all of them one by one. Ulster, Munster, Leinster, and Connacht. I also labeled Northern Ireland on this map in yellow for reference, but remember, like I said, it is invalid, never has existed, and never will. By 400, Ireland gained its beloved Gaelic and later on Irish culture. The Iron Age would later on end, and with its end came a man from the neighboring island, who would change the country forever. This mystery man was St. Patrick. During the 400s, St. Patrick, or by his actual name, May One Suck At, would travel Ireland after being freed from slavery, mainly to spread the good word of the Buddha, Jesus Christ. Through his travels across the island, he would begin the Christianization process of Ireland, eventually leading the religion to become the dominant one in Ireland for the rest of history. However, on this day, March 17th, 1,560 years ago, in 461, St. Patrick died in the town of Saul in the UK of mysterious causes. However, surprisingly, he wasn't crucified, like most of the other famous saints. St. Patrick would also promote the Roman alphabet, which will lead to future books, like the famed Book of Kells. And also, St. Patrick later on became the patron saint of Ireland, which would cause the anniversary of his death to become Irish National Day, or St. Patrick's Day in 1903. Since the year 60 or so, lasting until about 500, the Irish would be paid visits from everyone's non-British colonizer, the Romans. While the Romans didn't even colonize or even invade Ireland, they did visit it for sure. All they wanted to do was trade and just study the land, like Ptolemy, or Hibernia as they called it. Nonetheless, with the collapse of Rome, Ireland would remain Roman-free. However, in Scotland, things were a little bit different. 7th century Ireland was, let's just say, not so great. Following the miniature renaissance, if you want to call it, that was the 6th century, came something that would halt Ireland's peace and prosperity. The plague. No, not that one yet. This one. From 660 to 680, the first wave of the bubonic plague shattered Ireland. Through the 20th century, the bubonic plague would kill about 50,000 Irish people, and in fact, what I estimated to be 2.5 million people. With the start of the 9th century or 800s came another new time period, the medieval era, and you know that means Viking plunderers. Starting in 795, the naughty Norse division of the Vikings began their centuries-long hobby of plundering and raiding Ireland, mostly in cities along the coast. While the Vikings were pretty mean to the Irish, they did do the island and the Irish some favors. It was like Vikings be like, "Hey Irish, don't kill us, Vikings. We no kill you like English. We also like build big towns." Some of the Vikings' towns were Difflin, Vedrafjordr, and Coppinger, which became Dublin in 841, named after its beautiful rivers, Waterford, and Cork. Over the next 2 centuries, the Irish, led by their High Kings, who I'm related to some of which, by the way, battled and later drove out the Norse Vikings of the island. The largest of their battles was by far the Battle of Clontarf on April 23, 1014, which was a strategic Irish victory. Following this, the Norse Vikings moved back to Norway and England, which made the Irish pretty smug. However, with the departure of the Vikings came the entry of a new group, the Normans. Originating in France, the Normans invaded Dublin and took it, thus establishing the Kingdom of Dublin in 1160, only to lose it again to the Irish 10 years later in 1170. Pathetic Normans. Didn't mention earlier is that the Normans were essentially the proto-British, so from here out, Ireland would have to deal with the British. With the ascension of the most hated English monarch ever, King John I of England in 1199, yes, the Magna Carta guy, came the integration of almost all of Ireland into the English crown. It was known as the Lordship of Ireland. Everything on red in this map was directly owned by the English crown, and the yellow was owned by cut-off Irish kingdoms, clans, and dukes, and duchesses, and all of that. By the end of the 1300s, the Irish had fought the Normans so much that the Normans finally decided to leave. The largest battle between the two groups was definitely the Battle of Cullen. In it, the Normans were obliterated by the Irish. Irish culture would explode after this. However, the English sent a present to the Irish.
"You've got mail."
Oh, that present was the Black Death. Oh, you sneaky English. Oh, and the English dissolved the Irish Parliament directly to rule them, making the Irish very overjoyed. In 1536, King Henry VIII of England began his conquest of Ireland. By the middle of the 1600s, all of Ireland would be under the English throne. Yes, it took them that long. However, from 1593 to 1603, the Irish rebelled against the English in the 9 Years' War, not the one in the 1600s, the 1500s one, which was really 10 years, but I don't know who names this stuff. The Irish, now under the Kingdom of Ireland, which was an English puppet state, lost, and the English would keep on conquering the rest of the island, and they would also fail to convert the Irish to Protestantism, at least for now. Now we reach the bloodiest century in Irish history, the 1600s. By 1653, all of Ireland was made part of the United Kingdom, thanks to one of its cruelest invaders or British rulers, Oliver Cromwell. He finished the British conquest of Ireland. However, he would later be deposed and executed even though he was already dead, starting a war, the Williamite War. From 1688 to 1691, the Kingdom of Ireland became the prize for the claimant to the British throne, either James II or William III, which caused the war. William III won, subjugating Ireland to his rule. From 1695 to 1709, the British imposed the penal laws on the Irish. Yeah, laugh all you want. Mostly to force them to choose a side, Catholicism or Protestantism. The Irish couldn't decide, annoying the British. After, from 1740 to 1741, the second worst famine in Irish history began, the Little Ice Age, as it is known. About 410,000 Irish people died, and about 155,000 were forced to leave the island for new opportunities. Yeah, not such great times. Starting in the mid-18th century or the mid-1700s, the Anglo-Irish ruling class of Ireland became more tolerant of things that the British weren't: the Irish Catholics. Irish Catholics were granted more protections in the 1790s generously, but you know who wasn't? The Presbyterians. The Presbyterians were persecuted for their unique views and would be until the 20th century, when their church became the one that everyone has memories of going to, unless they didn't. Following the British's frustrating navigation acts in the 1760s, placing tariffs, the Irish revolted against taxation without representation to form the United States of Ireland. They just rebelled. In 1798, the Irish Rebellion became the largest to date. The Irish Rebellion of 1798, as it was called. Almost 75,000 people rebelled, prompting the British to brutally suppress it, killing about 50,000 people, only sparing about 25,000 people. After, the British were like, these people are dangerous. We must unite with them. And so, on January 1st, 1801, the British passed the Union Act of 1800, making the entire island part of the UK once again. And now we reach the single deadliest event in Irish history, the Irish Potato Famine. Following relentless British tariffs, which were totally ethnic discriminatory, like the Corn Laws, the Irish were slowly driven to one crop in particular: potatoes. However, with their rapid production emerged a fungus, which would cause potatoes to rot and become inedible. And so, for many literally risking losing their last food source, panic set in. From 1845 to 1852, the Irish Potato Famine, 1/4 of the Irish population either left or died, equating to 1 million deaths. I treat this as a total British genocide, and I think they caused it. So yeah, the British were unfathomably cruel to the Irish. Beginning in the 1870s, the Irish grew so sick of the British's lousy home rule that they campaigned for something else: total independence. After unsurprisingly getting denied independence from the British, the Irish gave the British war. First, in April of 1916, the Irish began the Easter Rising, a huge fight. During it, 2,000 Irish people died. But that wasn't all. From 1919 to 1922, the Irish War of Independence went down. After forming the Irish Republican Army, the IRA fought the British in the streets. 700 Irish people and 500 British people died. The result was a loosely independent state known as the Irish Free State, which was still totally owned by the British, and it would later be dissolved in 1937. On April 18th, 1949, the Irish Republic was established after the 1948 Republic of Ireland Act. After a millennium of no self-rule, the Irish finally had their own country. However, what would constitute this country caused trouble. The Irish wanted the whole island under the Republic, but the British Protestants in the north didn't. This caused tensions, which would become violent. And as of 1960, we have now reached the Troubles. From 1960 to 1980, the IRA and the British would participate in skirmishes, usually violent ones. By its end, 3,500 people were dead, about 2/3 of which were British and the rest Irish. The bloodiest day of this whole awful time was Bloody Sunday, where 14 people died, 13 immediately and 1 later on. Later, on April 10th, 1998, the Good Friday Agreement was signed, allowing for the Republic of Ireland to be given 100% without a doubt independence. However, they would have to let the British annex most of Ulster, creating Northern Ireland. In 2011, Michael D. Higgins became the President of Ireland, bringing us to the present version of the Republic of Ireland. And with that was my history of the Republic of Ireland. I know that I made fun of the British and Northern Irelanders a little bit, both of which I have in my family, but yeah, that was my history of the Republic of Ireland. Now for part 2 of this video, the National Anthem. With that, I now present the National Anthem of Ireland, Amran na Fiann, or the Soldier's Song. Enjoy. And with that, that was my video on the history and national anthem of the Republic of Ireland, in time for its National Day, St. Patrick's Day. I hope you laddies and lasses enjoyed this video, since it got a little bit long. But anyways, what is coming up, you don't ask? Why, the answer is my history and national anthem of Greece. It will come out on March 25th. Thanks for watching. Happy Irish National Day and happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you for watching.